There were a lot of new names on the registration form. So for those of you who do not know me yet, my name is Rachel Fisher, and I'm the Member Services Librarian for Technical Services. I provide training for the Technical Services Department. So today I'm going to begin by reviewing the current state of serials in LEAP so that you have an idea of what you can do with serials with version 7.4. So I'll begin with an overview of what can be done in LEAP versus what still needs to be done in the client. And then I'll briefly review some of the basics in case you didn't attend an earlier webinar. And this will include logging in, searching different work forms, and navigating between the work forms, because the navigation is a bit different than in the client. And then I'll just demonstrate how to create supplier records, serial holdings records, and review the check-in record functions that we've done in the previous sessions. In previous webinars, I have taken time for you to try the different features during the webinar, but I do have a lot of new information to cover, so I'm not going to do that this session, but I'll be sure to add another webinar in the future that will be more interactive so that you can try the features and ask questions as they come up while you're trying them. So with the version 7.4 upgrade, the majority of serials functionality is now in LEAP. This means you can create supplier records and serial holdings records. The check-in records have full functionality, including printing serials labels and withdrawing issues. However, new item templates and publication pattern templates still need to be created in the client, but you can add your publication patterns from scratch or copy the existing ones. However, I know most of you won't need to create any new serial holdings records unless you have a new subscription, but it's great to be able to get to know how to create those serial holdings records if that need does arise. Or if there are any of you that are still not using the serials module in the client yet and would like to migrate to the client for the to LEAP for the first time, you'll be able to do that in LEAP. One thing that still is missing from the LEAP online app is the ability to delete claims periods from the serial holdings records. So I'll point out when I'm demonstrating how to create the serial holdings records, you can make sure that you copy the correct one that doesn't have any claims periods yet. And you also need to still use the client to access route lists, subscription management, and the claims alert list or claims reports and notices. You also still need to update the label page and content settings in the client, but you can print your serial labels from LEAP when you check in the record. On this link, on this slide, I've also included a link to the Serials in LEAP course. I've updated it for version 7.4, and I've included some lessons for the client, which was just to make it easier for Warren Newport or any other new staff, as it will still require them to create their item templates in the client. So you will see some client lessons interspersed through the LEAP lessons. Does anyone have any questions about what I've covered so far? Feel free to type questions in the chat or unmute yourself. One moment, I just need to navigate to the right page. All right, so I do want to begin by reviewing logging in. If you haven't bookmarked the LEAP URL yet, you will be able to access it from the CCS website. So if you click on Member Tools and then open the drop-down menu and click on Member Tools A to Z, you will navigate to the Member Tools A to Z page. In the third row, you will see links for LEAP production and LEAP training. It's a very easy way to navigate to it. If you click on View, it will take you to LEAP. If you click on Learn More, it will take you to the course for LEAP Basics. So I'm going to be using LEAP's training module today. And there's also a link in the online course. So to log in, you will need to type CCS / and then your username and password. You'll then need to select your branch and workstation. Like the client, you will see an alert notice. This alert notice will remind you that you will be using the client or production. And then you can press continue. So like the client, it has the same color scheme. Red is for training and blue is for production. So there are some features of the drop-down menus that you will be using frequently for serials. The new drop-down menu is allowing you to create any new records. So it's a bit different than the client. You don't have separate drop-down menus for each of the record types. All of the record types that you can create from scratch are listed in the new drop-down menu. So here you'll be able to use it for creating new serial holdings records from scratch or supplier records. The utilities drop-down menu is similar to the utilities drop-down menu in the client, but you'll see that it has functionality that would have been in other drop-down menus like the serials menu that is now under the utilities menu. So this includes serials check-in and the label manager, as well as mark import. So you'll use this frequently for serials check-in. The help drop-down menu is where you will find the help topics. You can click on LEAP topics. And this will open up Polaris's LEAP help files. If you scroll down to the bottom, you will see the topics for serials. There's also a link under the help menu to open up a pop-up with all of the LEAP shortcuts. You may find this useful, but it's probably just as easy to click on the buttons. One other drop-down menu is under your username. This is where you'll find the label settings that you can update in the client. On the Print Options tab, you can scroll down to the bottom and you will see that they've added the serials label options right next to the cataloging label options. So if you do print serials labels, you also can set the label default to serials options instead of cataloging options, so that the serials labels will appear as a default first. These print settings are connected to the print settings in the client. So if you go back and forth between the two and do change your settings, if you change them in Leap, they will change in the client and vice versa. So do make sure that these settings are the way you want them if you've changed them recently. The other tab that you should be aware of is the Workform user defaults. This does set a default for the tab to open up to when you open up a record. So if you open up an item record, it will start on the Details tab. If you open up a bibliographic record, it would start on the Preview tab and so forth. You also do have an option to set a default item template, but if you do use more than one, which I think is probably most people, you won't find this very useful because you'll need to switch to another template. Are there any questions so far about these drop-down menus? Feel free to type in any questions in the chat, and I can answer them as I go on. Okay, so I'm going to move on to searching. I have covered this before, so it'll be a bit of a review. So you will see this quick access search box at the top. This will allow you to search for barcodes, patron names, titles, and then you can also do more advanced searching by clicking on the Find button to open the Find tool. There is only one Find tool, unlike the client, so under the database drop-down menu, you will see a list for all of the different types of records that you can search for in the client. So this does include bibliographic records, item records, record sets, serial holdings records, supplier records, and templates, but it does not include the check-in record. You can only access the check-in record from that utilities drop-down menu or from navigating to it from a serial holdings records. So the navigation in Leap right now is a bit different than the client. So I'm going to search for a bibliographic record for a periodical. If you want to set up your default search settings, you can use the star. You can also set all of them up and use a star along the search box for the defaults. So the second drop-down menu is for the mode. This is a lot like the client. It's got basic power and search, but it also SQL search, but it also has a browse mode here too. The qualifier drop-down menu lists all of the keywords that you can search for. So I'm going to search for title. And the relation drop-down menu is the type of search. There's exact, exact truncated, keyword all, keyword any, and phrase. In the search box, there are several different icons. The funnel is for the filters. The shopping bag is for record set options. That allows you to send all of the search results to a record set. So I'm not going to demonstrate that today though. But I am going to use a filter. So I'm going to filter by type of material. You can add as many filters as you'd like. I'm going to select periodical. To add another filter, you can just press the plus symbol and use Boolean operators of and, not, or. I'm just going to use the one type of material today and press apply. And I'll search for National Geographic Kids and click on this record to open it. So I have my default set to preview, but if you wanted to change that to mark or items, you can do that in the settings under the drop-down menu for your username. If you do need to check the type of material to make sure it's the right image, you can click on this title and it will open up the pack so that you can see which image displays. One of the things that's really different about Leap is that if you're used to navigating to other record types from the links drop-down menu, they're not in the links drop-down menu anymore in Leap. You can access the holds queue, the pack or Vega from the training server, but in production, you'll only see pack and holds queue. So there are other links to navigate to the records. So for navigating to the item records, you would click on either local items for your local items or all items, which lists all libraries items, and click on an item record to navigate. If you want to navigate to the record sets, you would open the record sets tab and click on the record set that you need for the bibliographic record from the bibliographic record. If you want to navigate to the record set for the item record, you would open up the item record and click on the record sets tab for the item. So there are some new things that I'd like to show you. I'm going to go back to the bibliographic record. One thing I forgot to do was open up the work form tracker. This is somewhat useful, especially if you work with bibliographic records and need to deduplicate them. You can access it from these 3 bars at the top of the screen and pin it open by using the pin. So this will list all open records on the side, and you'll see that each record type has a different icon. So this is the icon for bibliographic records and item records. So one thing that is different with Leap is you can now see the issue designation from the list of item records right next to the volume. So the volume is from the item record and the issue designation comes from the issue record. So if you scroll down, you can see that some libraries use their item records and some don't. So here we have a volume for Algonquin, but not for Cary. That's totally fine because what's important is that the issue designation matches in the issue record. Another new feature about item records is that if you are familiar with the previous version of Leap that we had, that was 7.2, is that there were additional tabs. There was the details tab and control tab, and those were just merged into the details tab. So this will look a lot like the general view of the item record in the client. You've got your barcode, branches, shelf location, price, material type, loan period, statistical code, fine code, and so forth. And it now also has the call number. And there's a new setting that is in the item record in Leap for language. This has not been added to the client, and they do not plan to add this to the item records in the client. So if you want to use this language field, you will need to use Leap. And we'll talk about this a bit more at the CAM meeting. So one of the things about navigating to the other records that are linked is that the links are now in the header. So no matter which tab you're on, whether it's details, circulation, or record sets, you'll always see this heading at the top. And there's a link to the bibliographic record from the big control number here. And also a link to the issue record from the issue control number. So you can navigate to it only from this header and not from the links drop-down menu. The links drop-down menu only goes to the holds queue. So the issue record is pretty much the same as the client. It just has your issue designation, price, and expected date on the Details tab. And there's a Notes tab. And you can see that the issue record, since it's now open, has been added to the Workflow Tracker. So from the issue record in the header, you do have a link back to the item record and to the bib control number for the bibliographic record. You also have your link to the serial holdings record. You can click on that to open your serial holdings record. So the serial holdings record has enough features to be able to copy existing serial holdings records to create new ones, and you can also add publication patterns from a template or from scratch, but you cannot create new publication pattern templates yet. That's only available in the client, but hopefully you won't have to do that. So from the serial holdings record, one thing that's a bit different about this header is that it doesn't have the link to the check-in record. The serials check-in record is in the links drop-down menu though. So you can navigate to the serials check-in record either from the serial holdings record or from the utilities drop-down menu. So the Details tab is pretty much the same as in the client, with the status, destination, collection. The section for call numbers is optional, but the call number scheme does need to be title. You can put this information in your item record template instead of the serial holdings record. And you have your publication pattern section at the bottom. The publication pattern work form has been consolidated a bit just into 3 tabs. The Details tab has your arrival pattern. You can set that up to work in conjunction with the claims periods so that it knows when to add the issue that hasn't arrived to the claims alert list. The designation is where you would set up your frequency and your chronology or enumeration. And the regularity pattern tab is where you would see the regularity pattern that's automatically created when you create a publication pattern, but you can edit it if you need to combine or omit issues. However, you can also combine or omit issues from the check-in record. So that might be a bit easier than messing with the regularity pattern. One thing that we haven't been using is the retention designator, because what that does is automatically removes issues from the pack, from the visibility in the pack by meeting these criteria of the retention designator. So instead, what you could use is a shared public note on the Notes tab to explain so that the patrons know that you retain the current issue plus however many years that you like to retain. The Orders tab is where you would link your serial holdings record to a supplier record. If you want to use the claims functions of the of LEAP, you will need to use the supplier record to utilize the claims features. In order to properly copy a serial holdings record, you do need to check that you're starting with a library serial holdings record that doesn't have claims on the claims tab first. If you do copy a serial holdings record with claims information and want to delete it or change it, it doesn't allow you to do that yet in LEAP. But it'll be able to add new claims periods from your supplier record if you copy it in LEAP. Are there any questions so far? Feel free to add any questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and talk if you'd like. If I've gone too fast, feel free to let me know. I can slow down and go back and demonstrate something again. Okay, I'm going to move on and demonstrate how to create some records. So, to begin with, if you want to use claims, you need a supplier record. So to create a supplier record, you can click on the new drop-down menu and then click on supplier. This opens up a blank supplier record. So I'm just going to use EBSCO services as an example. You would type in your name, an alternative name, account number. I'm going to use Warren Newport as an example today because they're new. And as I said, this can be used for claims. If you want to use this supplier record to help you with the claims, you do need to fully fill out the contact information on the claims tab. So there are 3 tabs for address fields, orders, payments, and claims, but you can easily copy them to both after you've filled out the claims data. If you want to set up claims, one thing that's great about that is that you can set it up to email yourself when an issue needs to be claimed. And this is pretty easy to do if you want to use the client. You can add your own library address. It doesn't have to be EBSCO's address. I'm just going to say any street. You can put your name for the contact name and your email address for the contact email address so that it emails you. Below that is the claims setup. So first you need to save the record before you set up the claims. And you can use up to 5 claim periods. I'll only use 2 today. After typing in the claims periods, you do need to click somewhere, so it will activate these 2 claims periods. So I'll just put in 5 days after the expected arrival date for the first claim period and 5 days after the first claim. You have the option for being able to print cancel notices. This has to be done from the client. So that would be under the utilities drop-down menu and reports and notices. So you would check the box if you want to have your print notices created, and also a claims notice. So if you want that claim to be emailed to yourself, check the box for claim notice and select email. You can also set up an automatic cancel waiting period by clicking on the checkbox for that. But I'm not going to use that today. And then you can save the record. Are there any questions about supplier records? If you'd like me to demonstrate something again, or have any questions, please do feel free to type that in the chat. Okay, I'm going to move on to copying serial holdings records. So there are 2 ways to create serial holdings records. You can copy existing ones that another library created, or you can create one from scratch. So it's easiest to copy any existing ones, especially if you're migrating your serials to the Polaris Serials module for the first time. I'm going to use this existing Algonquin serial holdings records because there's no claims periods here yet. It's fairly easy to copy it. It's under the Actions drop-down menu. Then you can copy the record. There's also a delete button if you needed to delete something here too. So this will open up a new serial holdings record with the same data as what was in the Algonquin record. So I'll make a copy for Warren Newport. I'll change the destination to Warren Newport. It's already linked to that big control number for the record. And this is already a youth magazine collection, but I'll change this from magazine new to magazine. And the next thing you would want to do in order to generate your predicted issues is to change the start designation of the publication pattern. So I'm going to open that up. And if you want to use the claims periods, you would need to use your arrival pattern. So I'm going to set that up to arrive 5 days before the publication date. It's going to predict 12 issues. And if you want to generate items at check-in and prompt you for the barcode, you'll want to make sure that these checkboxes are checked. On the designation tab, it says it started in May 2018, so I'm going to change that to 2023. And we'll start that for September 1st, 2023. It already has the chronology and automatically updates that to this year. And the regularity pattern is already displaying a monthly pattern because that's automatic. And then to predict the issues, you just have to press save. Oh. I haven't seen that toast before with the error. So, I will change this to 2024 and see if that works. One second, let me change the owner in the orders tab to Warren Newport and save this record. I forgot to save it. So saving the record is important before you edit the publication pattern. So I'm going to start again and type in the arrival pattern for 5 days before publication. And now change the start date to 2023. I'll make that September 2023. And press save. That worked. So always make sure you save the serial holdings record before you create your publication pattern. So you can see a preview of the issues that it will predict, and then press predict to predict the issues. This creates all of the issue records for the check-in record. And I'm going to close that publication pattern. So I'm back on the serial holdings record. And in order to add those claims periods to the claims tab, you need to find a supplier. I'm going to click on find. This will open up the find tool. And you can filter the supplier by clicking on that funnel. So this is kind of an odd thing that does confuse people somehow, is that there's this search filter at the top for all owners that you can't change, but you can still click on add condition and select owner to choose your own library. I'm going to choose Warren Newport and press apply. And so this EBSCO Services Serials Example 2 is what I just created today. So I'll select that record and press open. So you can see that this has added my claims waiting periods to the claims tab, and I can save the record again. So now if I wanted to navigate to that serials check-in record, I'd be able to do so from the link. And this has all of the predicted issues. Are there any questions? Feel free to ask any questions that you'd like in the chat. So I'm going to close all of these records that I have open. And now I'm going to demonstrate creating the serial holdings record from scratch. So you can do that by clicking on the new drop-down menu and selecting serial holdings record. This opens up a blank serial holdings record. So you will just fill out the information like you would in the client. So the status would be currently received. I'll select Warren Newport again. Order type could be subscription. The collection will be magazines. Material type. You can select magazine or magazine new. And to link the bibliographic record to the serial holdings record, you need to press Find by bib control number. And this opens up the Find tool for the bibliographic record. So I'm going to add in a filter for type of material, a periodical. And I'll use National Geographic as an example. So we'll do National Geographic Little Kids today. So you can see that links the bib control number and adds the title to the serial holdings record. So in the holdings display section, you need to select title in the call number scheme. Completeness code needs to be incomplete for a new record. And then you need to save the record before adding the publication pattern. So to add a new pattern, you'll click on New Pattern. And you will see a pop-up for choosing your publication pattern. So if you'd like, you can select a template to use, but I'm going to use no template right now because I can then demonstrate adding in the chronology and enumeration. So I'm going to use the arrival pattern first for making sure that the claims are set up. And I'll have them predict 12 issues and add in a unit price, $5. If you don't have a unit price either in the serial holdings record or the item template, the patrons will be charged the default price of $24.99 if they lose something and you want to fine them for losing the issue. So I do recommend using the unit price. You can also ask us to change the default price in Polaris by material type. So we can change the magazine and newspaper material types to have a different price that you'd like for a default. And that's another option. So feel free to contact us at the help desk if you want to change your default prices. So if you do want to generate those items at check-in, you do need to make sure you check the box for generate items at check-in and prompt you for the barcode. And the next thing is the designation tab. So first, you need to select your frequency for monthly and select a start date. I'll make that September 1st. To add the chronology for a year, month, or season, you would use the Add Chronology button. And to add enumeration for volumes and issues or free text, you would use the Enumeration button. So I'm going to demonstrate adding the chronology for a monthly publication. So you need to add the levels one at a time. So first is year, and this will automatically show the format of numeric. And then press OK. So you have to add the year. If it's going to be published on a specific day of the month, you would add the day next, like if it were a weekly publication. But for monthly, you would just then add the month. Months and seasons do need to be abbreviation. And then you would press OK. This automatically creates the regularity pattern. So just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to delete these patterns here. And if I were to need to create a pattern for quarterly, I'll just demonstrate this quarterly pattern for volumes and numbers. You would change the frequency to quarterly and use add enumeration. And you have to add your levels one at a time, like the client. So I'll add in the volume for the caption, V period, and choose number for the format. And then you would add your starting volume. Just add in volume 25 and press OK. So then to add in the next level, that would be issue or number, you would have to add the enumeration again. I'll type number. For the caption, the format is a number, but for a quarterly publication, you're going to want to start that value every year. So the start value will be 1. You would add the number of units for quarterly, that's 4. And for continuity, it restarts. Then press OK. And this will predict your issues with the numbers restarting every year. So I'm going to delete that because we know that National Geographic is not quarterly, that's going to be monthly. And I'll add back in the proper chronology for that. For year and month. We do have another question in the chat. Please explain again when chronology and enumeration are used. So chronology is used for time periods of the months, like a year, a month, and a date, such as a newspaper that could be published daily would have the year, the date, and then the month. A monthly publication could have the year and the month. A quarterly publication could be by season, so you would want the year and the season in the chronology. The enumeration is used for the issue designations that have volumes and issues, or volumes and numbers. But there are some publications that have like a year and then a volume and a number. So in that case, you would want to use both chronology and enumeration. You would use the chronology for the year, and the volume and number or issue would be in enumeration. If you have a special issue, you would want to add another pattern for the special issue. So I'm going to demonstrate that now, and that would use enumeration. So I'm going to save this publication pattern record, and it is showing a preview of the predicted issues. So now I'm going to press predict and close the publication pattern. And then to see that in the publication pattern section, you need to press refresh. So it's added, a regularity pattern for a quarterly. So that's not the one I wanted, but this is just a demonstration. I forgot to change that back to monthly. So if you want to delete that, you can check the box and close a pattern if you're not using it yet. You can press close, press continue, or check the box and then press delete. So it's deleted that pattern successfully. So if you do want to use a template, you can scroll through here and find the right template to use. I'll select a monthly template, press OK. So again, you would need to change the arrival pattern if it's not there for what you'd like it to be. And it will add the date from the template to the publication pattern. So you'll want to change that date to the current date of the issue that's arriving. I'll make that for September 1st. That updates the pattern, and then press save. Okay, so now that is a monthly pattern from the templates. Do you see a question in the chat? It says, for magazines that have multiple volumes within the same year, such as Economist, will that change the way information is recorded for the issues received that year every time the volume number is updated? If you add a new pattern, it will change it. But if you're just using your same serial holdings record, you'll see no difference between what you've been doing in the client and what you've been doing in what you will do in Leap. Does that make sense? So if you do expect there to be a special issue, I'm going to demonstrate now how to add that special issue pattern. If you do want to have a second pattern or a third pattern, you're welcome to do that. You can press new pattern. If you know there is a template, you can scroll through the list and find templates that are called irregular or currently irregular. I'll demonstrate how to do this from scratch and press OK. So if you know that this will be for supplementary material, you can select supplementary material in the category. If it's just a special issue, you can leave it as basic bibliographic unit. You don't necessarily need to use an arrival pattern for a special issue if you don't know when it's arrived or won't be predicting the issue. You can change issues to predict to 1 if you know when it will be coming. But if you do change your frequency on the designation tab to completely irregular, it will not predict any new issues. Late asks, can you change how many issues to create? Let's say we will only order the magazine for 1 year. Yes, you can. On the details tab, you can change issues to predict to whatever number you want. You can make it 12. It's a quarter. If it's quarterly, you can make it 4. The default in the client has been 50, but you can change it to whatever you want. So if the completely irregular issue is going to be something like a holiday issue that comes out, or one special issue a year, you can add in the year to the chronology, and then add enumeration. You'll want to add in free text so that you can add the title in. So I'm going to type free text for the caption. And if you place it in brackets, it will not display in the issue record. And then select free text as the format and press OK. So now I'm going to save the record. And it saves the record or saves the publication pattern, but does not predict the issues for any completely irregular patterns. So I'm going to press refresh. And now you can see I've added 2 patterns to the publication pattern screen. We've got in a question about printing labels. Is there a way to change the content of the serial label in LEAP? In the client, I have pulled information from the serial designation rather than the call number. You can edit the labels as they appear in the label manager, so I will demonstrate that soon. But if you do need to alter the settings for like the size of the labels, the font, the size of the font, that needs to be done in the client. So I'm going to open up the serial check-in record for this National Geographic Little Kids issue. And it's fairly easy to use to check in an issue, or just check the box and press check in. If you have your labels set up to automatically be generated when you check in your issue, it will do so as soon as you press the check-in button, and it will generate that issue according to your print settings. So in batch, it will send it to the label manager, and you can print as many as you want at a time in batch. So if you did need to combine issues, you can select 2 issues to combine the issues. You'll see a dialog box popping up in case you'd like to add any notes or change the expected arrival date, and press continue. And then you can check that box when you're ready to check it in and check it in. You can also print a label from the check-in record. So if you don't want to automatically print your labels at check-in, from the check-in record, you can check the box and press print label. Also from here, you can undo the check-in or delete the issue. So when you delete the issue, that's withdrawing the issue. You can then use that to delete your item record and issue at the same time. So one other way to print the labels is from the issue record. So if you open the issue record and click on the Actions drop-down menu, you can print that label. So I'm going to filter back to the expected issues. If that special issue arrives, you can add that from your check-in record by opening the Action drop-down menu and adding the issue or part. You will see that you can select two publication patterns because I created two publication patterns in the serial holdings record. Select completely irregular for that special issue. And then you'll have this text box for free text. You can then type in the name of that special issue and press save. So that creates the new issue record. You can close that issue record and you can see it in your check-in record. So to check that in, you would need to check the box and press check-in. That generates the label automatically. So I'm going to filter to the received issues. If you check in something by mistake, you can press undo check-in. And I don't need the special issue here, so I'm just going to withdraw it now. So to withdraw the record, you would press delete. You'll see these pop-ups, making sure you want to delete the selected item. You would press yes, and delete the issue or part. Press yes again. So that deletes both the issue and the item. So to print the labels, you would navigate to Utilities, and then Label Manager. So you can see all the labels I've been generating as I've been making my issue records and checking them in today. You can click in the text if you'd like to and copy it. Let's say I already printed something for that space on my label sheet and I want to reuse it, so I'll move that there. I'll delete that. I'll cut that one and move it there. And you can change the text or update it as you'd like. But again, if you need to change the font size or the font, that needs to be done in the client. So you can press save before printing it. To print it, you would open the Actions drop-down menu and press Print Labels. So this opens up like a PDF preview. You would have to press the print button at the top again to print the labels, and then press print again. So when you're done with printing these labels, you can press the Actions drop-down menu and Clear Labels to clear the labels. Press yes, and then close that, and I'm back at the check-in record. So if you do, forgot to mention, if you do want to predict new issues, that's under the Actions drop-down menu. You can press Predict Issues or Parts. Select the monthly pattern and press Continue to predict additional issues. This will open the same Predict preview screen that you saw from the serial holdings record and press Continue. So now I've got a lot of issues that have been predicted for this record. Okay. Are there any questions that you have about the check-in record, serial holdings record, anything that I've covered so far? If there's anything you'd like to have demonstrated again, feel free to ask. If I've gone too fast, let me know. I can demonstrate anything else again. One second. I do want to post a link to the course in the chat. I will be sending this out to you later today. So, as I've said, if you'd like additional practice, the online course has been updated for 7.4, but you will see some lessons that are still for the client in it. I do have a question. How can we edit a prediction? One second. So I'm going to navigate to a serial holdings record here. This is this one from, I have to share my screen. Okay. So, there are two ways to edit the prediction. If you wanted to edit the publication pattern, you can edit it in the publication pattern. But if you wanted to just combine an issue or omit an issue in the check-in record, you can do so as well. So I'm going to open up this publication pattern. And on the regularity pattern tab, you can combine and omit issues. So it does add any new patterns that you create to the bottom. So you might want to make the whole thing from scratch. So I'm going to delete all of these codes here. So one second. I'm going to have to start from a new pattern to do it. It's not letting me edit the existing pattern. So I'm going to create this pattern from scratch. I'll add a chronology for a year. And season for, no, I'll just do month. That will be easiest. Year and month. I will make this a monthly pattern. So one way that you could change this is if you know it's going to be bi-monthly, you can change the frequency to bi-monthly, semi-annual, and so forth. You can change the frequency if you already know what that is, and that will alter the pattern. So I'm going to select monthly for this demonstration. If you know, though, that they're combining 2 months or 3 months in the year, let's say they're combining December and January, you could delete January and December and then add in a new pattern. So you would press add pattern. You can choose the publication code for combined. Then the calendar unit would be month, and then you would add in the number for the month. So it will be 12 and 01 and press OK. And then we'll add the code for the combined issues. So if you know that they're going to combine other issues, you can do that. If you know that, let's say summer month is going to be omitted, you can delete that. We'll also delete June. And you can press add pattern, omitted, for the publication code, month for the calendar year, and 06. And then press OK. So it omits 06. However, if you are just needing to combine 2 months or omit them, you might find it easier to just do it right from the check-in record. So from the check-in record, you can click an issue to delete it, or double-click on 2 issues to combine them. So you click 2 issues and press Combine Issues. Do you have a question? How do we access this recording? I will be putting it on YouTube, and once I've finished putting it on YouTube, I will send out a link to everyone who has been registered, and it will also be in Friday's CCS newsletter. And I'll send it also out to the CATS listserv. So I did add some instructions on how to combine those issues. It's fairly basic though. To find all of the serials instructions, you can do that from the online course, but you can also open the how-to drop-down menu and either click on LEAP or serials. So under serial holdings records, there's publication patterns in LEAP. And there's information for creating the publication pattern without the template, supplements, and regularity patterns. I basically just used the example that I showed of combining 2 months. And there's also a link to that What's New in Polaris in LEAP 7.4 document if you haven't read it yet. There's some more examples of combining issues and regularity patterns in that document that you may want to check out. Is there any other questions? All right, I do have a survey that you can fill out. We are always interested in receiving feedback on how we could improve our training or any other additional training sessions that you'd like to see. So please do let us know what you thought of today's training session by filling out this survey. I'll email that out to you as well. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at the help desk. Oh, there's one other thing I forgot. I created a poll. So I'm going to launch a poll. So after seeing LEAP demonstrated today, are you interested in using LEAP for your daily serials tasks? So you can check yes, no, or maybe. So the online course does have software simulations and guided activities that you can use in order to familiarize yourself with LEAP. It'll help you feel more comfortable with it. It is a bit different than the client. Okay. Looks like everyone has answered the poll, and 31% said yes and 63% said maybe. That's great.